Good morning, dear friends. We'll begin our service today with the words of the 23rd Psalm. Mizmor leDavid, Adonai rohi lo echsar, binote she'arbitzeni al mei menuchot yenahaleni, nafshi eshovev yanecheni b'magle tzedek, למען שמו. גם יקילך בגיא צל מוות לא ירא רע, כי אתה עמדי. שבטך ומשענתך המה ינחמוני. תערוך לפני שולחן נגד צורריי, דשנת בשמן כוסי, ראשי כוסי רוויה, אך טוב וחסד ירדפוני כל ימי חיי, ושבתי בבית אדוני לאורך ימים. Adonai is my shepherd, I shall not want. God gives me repose in green meadows and guides me over calm waters. God will revive my spirit and direct me on the right path, for that is God's way. Though I walk in the valley of the shadow of death, I fear no harm, for you are at my side. Your staff and your rod comfort me. You prepare a banquet for me in the presence of my foes. You anoint my head with oil, and my cup overflows. Surely goodness and kindness shall be my portion all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of Adonai forever.
Psalm 15 teaches us, Adonai mi agor ba'ohalecha, mi yishkon bahar kodshecha, holech tamim ufoel tzedek, v'dover emet bilvavo. O God, who shall dwell in your sanctuary, and who shall abide upon your holy mountain? He who lives with integrity and does what is right and speaks the truth in his heart, who has no slander upon his tongue, who does no evil to his fellow human beings, who does not reproach his neighbor. And the Talmud comments on this, blessed is he who is reared in Torah and labored in Torah, who pleased his Creator through righteous acts and good deeds, who lived with a good name and who died with a good name.
Ribono Shel Olam, Master of the universe, Creator of heaven, earth, man, and woman, be gracious to your children who now mourn. May the light of your presence dispel the gloom of absence so keenly felt on this sad day. Bless them with your compassion, empower them with your love, touch them with the fullness of your heart that they may be granted inner peace. El Shaddai, Almighty God of the living and the dead, send comfort to your children who now grieve. Overcome by the pain of loss, they need your help to focus on the triumph and on the joy in Charlie Winoker's life. Help them to meet grief with courage, to face sorrow undaunted. Help them to treasure what is now theirs because Charlie lived. Should despair threaten or faith falter, sustain us all, Adonai, for you are our refuge and our strength, our ever-present help in troubled times. And let us say, Amen. The thoughts of we who are gathered here today are filled with recollections of Charlie Winoker. We're bound together by a bond of common sorrow. Our tears join us on the sad occasion of his death. Where do we find the words? Where do we find the right words to express our loss? A eulogy is not the time for creative writing. It's time for truth. This moment demands nothing less than the truth. And it's for this reason the Talmud insists that we each write our own eulogy. not with pen or ink, of course. We write our own eulogies through our lives. We write it through our relationships. We write it through our activities. We write it through what we come to represent in our community and in the lives of those whose life crosses ours. So in truth, the eulogy that Charlie wrote in his lifetime was expressed beautifully and most eloquently by Charles himself, by his very life. There's a poem that came to my mind as I was thinking and as we were talking. It goes as follows. Not how did he die, but how did he live? Not what did he gain, but how he did give. Not what was his station, but had he a heart? And how did he play his God-given part? Was he ready with a word of good cheer to bring back a smile, to banish a tear? Not what was his shrine, nor what was his creed, but had he befriended those really in need? Not what did the sketch in the newspaper say, but how many were sorry when he passed away? I think when we focus on these aspects of Charlie Winoker's life, on his living, on his giving, on his heart, on his helping hand, on all those who feel the pain of his death, we catch a glimpse into the true measure of a very special man. I'd like to give the first words this morning to his family, then I'll add a few words and thoughts of my own, and then I hope that by putting these together and adding them to your own memories and recollections, that we will give adequate tribute to a very special life that has now come to its close. So I want to begin by inviting his daughter Marge, and then after her, his granddaughter Marcy, to share a few words.
Good morning. Thank you all for coming today to celebrate and remember my father, Charles. I'm Marjorie, the youngest of Charles and Elvis' 3 children. Dad was also the youngest of 9 in his family, so he definitely understood what it was like to be the youngest. He would never let my brothers pick on me, mostly. Wait until your father gets home, would ring out from my mother, and he made sure they knew it was their job to take care of and protect me, even when I didn't need it or want it. Dad's greatest joy and accomplishment was being the patriarch of the family and supposedly ruling the roost, although we all know it was Mom that really was in charge. Family dinners every night at 6 o'clock, and don't be late. During dinner, he would quiz us on math problems or spelling words, and if we got a word wrong, or sometimes just to make us think we were wrong, he would say, "Go look it up," and we would have to march out of the dining room into the living room and look up the word in the giant dictionary that was kept on the end table. That was fine for us kids, but when I had friends over for dinner and he would make them do it too, that was a little awkward, but he always did it with a smile on his face. Passover Seders, Thanksgiving, Hanukkah, Shabbat, Yom Tov meals were always with family. Having his one sister Shirley right across the street and his other sister Seal only 5 miles away made for great celebrations in our home. His greatest compliment to my mom's cooking was always, "I'm eating it, aren't I?" And again, said with a smile and a little laugh. The synagogue was always a place of great importance for him. He and my mom were one of the founding members of this shul, and he took great pride in that. Every Shabbat, you could see him sitting in the 4th row, on the end, singing his heart out. And if they weren't in their seats for 1 week, the phone calls that would come in checking to make sure everyone was all right was just amazing. On Sunday mornings, if he wanted to wake us up, and for him that was about 8 a.m., was sleeping late, he would blast Richard Tucker singing Kol Nidre on the record player. And you would have to get up and stand right out of bed till the song was over. If by some unimaginable chance you didn't get out of bed right away, there was the occasional glass of cold water dumped on you. But Sundays were always family day, Whether driving out on the island for a picnic under a table in the rain or going up to Spring Valley to see grandparents, it was always an adventure. As we all got older and went to college, Dad was always still connected. His typewritten letters, because his handwriting was atrocious, would come. He was always so proud of all of us, and education was top on his list. How he was able to put us all through college, medical school, graduate school without ever taking out a loan is beyond me. But he made sure we didn't come out of school owing anything. All this by working at a tiny men's clothing store in Williston Park. The memories could go on, and I know most of you all have your own special or favorite memory of Dad, but my greatest joy, my greatest blessing, was over the last 5 years spending time with him alone. When my brother Arnold passed away, Dad's world collapsed. When Elpa got sick and passed away, I don't think anyone expected him to continue living. They were completely inseparable. So when Dad agreed to move to Gerwin Assisted Living, a new world opened up. I was able to see him on my way home from work at least 2 to 3 times a week. He and his aide Mohammed would come to my house for holidays or to spend Shabbat with me. The first time he came to my shul on Rosh Hashanah and I surprised him by reading Haftorah, I thought he was going to cry with pride. We would spend time playing checkers, which he would legitimately win, kick my butt, even up until last month. We would sit and have afternoon tea and cookies, go to listen to music, or just sit outside in the sunshine, which he had always enjoyed, even living in Roslyn. He would call it shuckling, which was his way of saying taking a nap while sitting outside. Grandchildren, nieces, nephews, friends, calling him and just checking in to say hello or wishing him a good Shabbos always made him beam. I do believe that he does know how many people's lives he touched. There are so many good memories, great memories, that I could go on for hours, but Dad certainly wouldn't want me to do that. My family and I would like to thank you all for coming today and celebrate and remember Dad. I would especially like to thank Rabbi Lucas and Cantor Barnoi for all that you've done throughout the years. Sorry, you were both very important part of both Mom and Dad's life. We'll always remember Charlie, Zadie, Dad. His lessons on life, family, religion, and how to be a mensch will always be part of who we are. And Kol Nidre will always have a special place, although sleepy, place in my heart, remembering my dad. Thank you.
5 years ago, at Elva's funeral, I made a promise to my sister that when the time came, I would give a eulogy at Zadie's funeral. When I started thinking about what to say to celebrate his life, I worried that volunteering for this role today may have been a mistake. My Zadie was curmudgeonly, grumpy, and cranky. In fact, we may have referred to him once or twice as the bitter herb at the Passover table. My Zadie was not an easy person to get to know. He was serious, reserved, and had his own demons that he faced his entire life. He was a man of a few words, which often made it hard to get to know him. Despite the fact he loved to sit on the porch with his family and a cup of Bubby's iced tea, he was not one for small talk. So when my Zadie passed away on Sunday night, I wondered again, what did I agree to do? What was it that I remembered so fondly about my Zadie? How could I properly celebrate a man who rarely shared his thoughts and with whom you could time your phone calls, usually a minute 45 seconds or less? What could I share that would show what he meant as a brother, husband, father, uncle, grandfather, and great-grandfather, and how dearly he will be missed? And then I realized what I truly loved about him was that he was my Zadie. He was a man who bounced us on his knee when we were kids. He, along with Bubby, showed us what it meant to be strong members of the Jewish community. He was a man whose face lit up when his family walked in the door of his house. He was a man who kept us laughing with his Zadieisms, like, "I'm not from the complainers." By the way, he was the biggest complainer I've ever met. "How's a Marcy?" And "you behaving yourself?" And the answer to that changed dramatically as we got older. And so here is the truth. He was a man who was fiercely loyal, loved his family, and was full of pride at the accomplishments of his children and grandchildren. He was a man who did not need to express his love with his words, but showed it through small, loving acts of kindness. He was a man who turned down our beds when we slept over. He was a man who kept photo books of all of his grandchildren so he could capture and remember each milestone. He carried around a piece of paper with everyone's name, Hebrew name, birth date, social security number, phone number, and any other piece of information that he could possibly want you to know. He was a man who would turn your car over for you, when you left it in the garage in the middle of the winter. He was my Zadie. I didn't realize until I went to write this how much I already miss his Zadieisms, like banging on the table when we got too rowdy at Passover. I am missing how much joy he got out of piling presents and kids on the table at Hanukkah. I'm already missing the way he would light up when you walked in a room and he would say, "How you doing, kid?" I'm already missing his gratitude for the small things in life, home-cooked meals and being surrounded by family. I am grateful for the 39 years I had with him on this earth. I am grateful that he was my Zadie. And so I'll close with my own prayer for Zadie and for those of us who remain in the living. May your demons be gone and your life be filled with tranquility and peace. May your reunion with Bubby, your parents, siblings, and my dad be filled with joy. May you know how much you were loved while you were here with us on earth and how much we will continue to love you even in death. And may those of us who were lucky enough to call him Charlie, Zadie, and Dad remember his small acts of loving kindness forever and always.
Marcy, Marge, those were beautiful tributes. Thank you. It's hard to speak of Charlie Winoker and his life without smiling. Even though his life had its shares of trials and tribulations, still, all in all, it's the blessings that he enjoyed that we choose to count today. Born 95 years ago in a part of Connecticut that did not have very many Jews. In fact, his father was an Orthodox rabbi, and it's not easy to make a living as a rabbi if there are no Jews around. So they became farmers. Charlie was raised on a farm. His mom ran the place. Apparently strong women run in the family. And life really began to change for Charlie when he left for City College in New York. That's where he met Elva. Family lore has it that they were in sociology class together, and he liked to tell the story that Elva got an A and he got a B on the very same paper because she sat in the first row wearing a short skirt. After college, like so many of the greatest generation, it was off to war. Charlie was in the Signal Corps, he was a lineman, and even landed at Normandy. It was a dangerous job. After the war, he came back, he married Elva, started as a banker in Manhattan, but soon took his meager earnings and invested in a business and moved out here to East Williston, opened the clothing store that would occupy the family for the next 40 plus years. That store was a fixture in the neighborhood in East Williston, and everyone in the family did their part. 1 week every summer, Charlie put up the Gone Fishing sign, and took his family on vacation. But other than that, it was work every day, every week, until his retirement at the age of 65, some 30 years ago. Charlie worked hard to provide for his family, and his only dream was that he wanted his children to do better than he did. He lived to see that dream come true. All his children became professionals, 2 doctors, a teacher, and he was so proud of your accomplishments. Family was, as you heard, what it was all about for Elva and Charlie. From their famous Sunday night jam sessions with Charlie on the sax, Elva on the violin, the kids playing piano and flute and clarinet, and even drafting his sister. It was quite the scene. Everyone loved it, except their bird Caruso. The music drove him crazy. This sanctuary was a very important part of Charlie and Elva's life. From the time they moved out here, this shul and this community was central to their life, as they were central to our life. The kids celebrated important events here. Charlie and Elva were regulars. They came every Shabbat. Charlie had a medical condition. I don't remember exactly what it was, but I remember that he would shuffle his feet and he'd sort of get stuck. Sometimes his blood pressure would drop, and sometimes he'd even pass out. There were more than a few times when this happened here at Temple Beth Shalom. A couple of times we even had to call EMS. But fortunately, Charlie's cardiologist also davened here every Shabbos. So he would come over and say, "Don't worry, it's not serious," and Charlie would get immediate medical attention. It was also interesting. Charlie loved getting an aliyah, coming up to the bima, but it was precisely this spotlight and attention that might trigger an episode. So it was sort of a catch-22. We wanted to give him the honor. He wanted to take the honor, but we were always keeping our fingers crossed as he kept up. It was a catch-22, but it's one we just all learned to live with. Elva's illness was such a challenge for her and for Charlie. I mean, she was the one who was in charge, who took care of things, and now sort of Charlie had to figure out how to navigate. He cared for her, attending to her every need. And for so many years, it was just always Charlie and Elva. It was almost impossible to imagine one without the other. Elva's death some 5 years ago was a terrible loss for Charlie, one from which he never really recovered. And as Marge said, I think many of us were surprised that he managed as well as he did. These past few years, though, were so hard for him. He was done with life, even though life was not yet done with him. When death finally came, it did not come as an enemy, but it came as a friend, and did not come suddenly or violently, but it came quietly and brought with it peace to the weary and to the heavy laden. Not how did he die, but how he did live. Not what did he gain, but how did he give. Not what was his station, but had he a heart, and how did he play his God-given part. Not what did the sketch in the newspaper say, but how many were sorry when he passed away. As we now come to take leave to the life of Charlie Winoker, we realize that he was truly blessed. He gave much and he got much from life. He had all that he needed, and he was privileged to realize it. To Edward and Nikki, Marge and Bruce, to Helen, to the grandchildren, Marcy, Sandra and Brett, David, Randy, Elizabeth, Aaron and Rachel, Allison, Lee, to his great-grandchildren, Margot and Aiden, to all the family and friends. What can we say to ease your pain? There are occasions too deep for words. Can we imprison in the net of our words the infinite sadness of those who just lost a loved one with whom their lives was so strongly and completely intertwined? Perhaps through that which is unspoken, through the sympathetic silences of our friendly hearts, we will convey more than words can say. His life ends, but his message continues. His example survives. His influence endures. O God, let us bring thy children out of the darkness and the shadow of death. We thank thee for the life of Charles Winoker, in whose friendship we were blessed, by whose understanding we were guided, and in whose tenderness we were healed. May the sureness of his nearness to us banish loneliness from our hearts, and the sureness of his nearness to thee, O God, quiet our anxious spirit. Be with those who most poignantly and most painfully feel the pangs of this hour, with all the family and friends. Comfort and strengthen their hearts, guide and direct their lives. Help them to know that deeper than the pains, the frustration, and even the mystery of death are your everlasting arms of love and mercy. Grant them steadfastness of purpose, faith in thee, and courage to face life. Give them the wisdom to say with understanding the ancient words of submission and resignation, perhaps the wisest words that could be said at an hour such as this. Adonai natan v'Adonai lakach, yehi shem Adonai mevarach. Lord, you have given, and now you have called unto yourself. We praise thee, O God, for the courage to make our broken hearts an altar before which we may acknowledge thy sovereignty and love. May thy name be praised now and forevermore. And let us say, Amen. Would you please rise for the memorial prayer?
El maleh rachamim, shochen bamromim, hametzei menucha nechona, tachat kanefei השכינה. במעלות קדושים וטהורים, כזוהר הרקיע מזהירים, לנשמת זלמן זelig בן אברהם ומלכה, שהלך לעולמו. בגן עדן תהי מנוחתו, ענה בעל הרחמים, הסתירהו בסתר כנפיך לעולמים, וצרור ויצרור החיים את נשמתו. אדוני הוא נחלתו, וינוח ושלום על משכבו, ונאמר
O God, exalted and full of compassion, grant perfect peace in your sheltering presence among the holy and pure. To the soul of Zalman Zelig ben Avraham Umalka, to the soul of Charles Winoker, who has gone to his eternal home. Master of mercy, we beseech you, remember all the worthy and the righteous deeds that he performed in the land of the living. May his soul be bound up in the bond of life. The Lord is his portion. May he now rest in peace. And let us say, Amen. Interment will be immediately following at the Mount Pleasant Cemetery in Valhalla in Hawthorne, New York. following which the family will be observing Shiva at Marge and Bruce's house. That's 11 Glen Hollow Drive, apartment D6 in Holtville, New York. Shiva will be today, Wednesday, and Thursday, and then again Sunday. There will be services every evening of those days at 7:30 p.m.